Yes, Donkey of the Day for Monday, June 10th goes to a woman named Heather McDonald. She is the author of a book called The Diversity Delusion: How Race and Gender Pandering Corrupt the University and Undermine Our Culture. Heather is one of these white people who are complaining about racism and discrimination towards white people. Now, these type of white people amaze me because they look the other way when discrimination happens to others, but when it comes to their own race, now they want to complain. First of all, white people could never be discriminated against, simply because there is no system in place to discriminate against whiteness. All right, this country was built for whiteness, by whiteness. There is no marginalization of white people in America. All right, it doesn't even matter what industry it is. Majority of the time, just being white gives you some type of advantage. Okay, we've seen it in black-ass industries like hip-hop for years. All right, it happens. So this notion that white people are being discriminated against is nonsense. But I'm all for listening to other people's views and opinions, even if I don't agree. So let's listen to what Heather McDonald had to say when she was on with Tucker Carlson on Fox News.
We're supposed to believe that whites are the source of all evil in society and that discrimination against whites is compatible with the constitutional ban on all discrimination. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court has basically embraced that in allowing racial discrimination in college admissions in the name of diversity. What's going on that's slightly different in New York City right now is the diversity rationale for racial discrimination, which now seems almost quaint in its white bread nature, is being replaced by something far more vicious and far more hating, which is the idea of toxic white culture.
See, this is the type of white fragility that prevents white people from confronting the BS of their ancestors. Are white people the source of all evil in society? The answer to that question doesn't start here in this current moment of time. The better question should be, have white people historically been the source of all evil in society? I can't think of too many things more evil than the transatlantic slave trade. I can't think of too many things more evil than the Jim Crow laws. I can't think of anything, more evil than the genocide of Native Americans, not to mention every oppressive law ever passed in America was passed by old white men. 94 crime bill, which led to mass incarceration and women. Do you ever wonder why you have never had the same rights as your male counterparts? Well, white women look no further than your great-grandfathers, all right? That all sounds like toxic white culture to me. Do we need to talk about abortion bans? Okay, a bunch of old white men telling women what to do with their bodies. I'm just saying, all right? To act like toxic white culture doesn't exist is just foolish. Now, don't let any of what Heather McDonald said ruin your day, because if you ask Heather McDonald about white privilege, you will realize that when you hear her answer as to why white privilege can't possibly be the answer for everything, all right, then you'll realize she's really trolling for book sales. Let's go back to Tucker Carlson to hear why Heather McDonald thinks white privilege cannot be a thing.
The public has to stand up and fight against this myth of bias and say that there are behavioral differences that explain outcomes. If white privilege explained everything, please tell me how 7 out of 8 of the recent National Spelling Bee champions were Indian Americans. If skin color was the scourge of people of color, they would not be able to succeed. In fact, why did they succeed, Tucker? Because they studied their butts off. And that's what inner city kids have to start doing.
Can you just play the beginning again? Just the beginning part. I just want to play the beginning part again.
The public has to stand up and fight against this myth of bias and say that there are behavioral differences that explain outcomes. If white privilege explained everything, please tell me how 7 out of 8 of the recent National Spelling Bee champions were Indian Americans.
Okay, stop right there. The mayonnaise is heavy with that answer, goddammit.
Too much goddamn mayonnaise.
If white privilege explained everything, please tell me how 7 out of the 8 of the recent National Spelling Bee champions were Indian Americans. That's like saying if white privilege were real, explain why 75% of NBA players are black. I don't know. Maybe because black people are just better at basketball. And in the case of these spelling bees, Indian Americans are just better spellers. Like, Heather, what the F are you talking about, all right? Never mind the fact that white privilege means you are less likely to be arrested, you are more likely to get into college, you are more likely to fit in and get called back for a job, you are less likely to be perceived as a thug. It's a number of reasons why white privilege is actually a thing, all right? And I'm not about to go back and forth with you about it. Please let Kathy Griffin handle my white work.
Please give this giant jar of mayo the biggest hee-haw.
Jesus Christ, Heather McDonald.
Can people be that ignorant?
You just snorted.
Yes, he did.
People are funny, man. You got to
goodness.
laugh at this kind of stuff. This is hilarious. This is hilarious to me.